Okay, so we're here with John at the Cong Burn stand.
Hi.
So what have you brought to the show, John?
So yeah, we've got three things to show today. First is Strokes. Strokes is a 8-track groovebox. It's a MIDI sequencer. Here I'm using it as a MIDI sequencer to sequence this drum rack down here. But alternatively, it has its own built-in voices and samplers. We first have the sampler, and then you have all the stuff that's implemented from Mutable Instruments plats. So there's basically 8 plats running in here at any time. And yeah, that's all being controlled by the sequencer here. The last thing that I added to this was this performance page as well. So with this, you can kind of build up 2 patterns, assign one on the left and one on the right, and then smoothly interpolate between them. And now that's not like a crossfade, like an audio crossfade, it's a parameter crossfade. So when you drag the slider from one side to the other, all the parameters underneath change. So if you imagine going between 2 like rhythmic patterns, right? You've got rhythm A on the left, rhythm B on the right, but then in between, you can just do fills. You know what I mean?
Brilliant,
which is
really
pretty
nice.
cool, yeah. So yeah, that's Strokes. The only new thing with Strokes I've shown this year is it's now fully integrated with the Monome grid. So if you run in Serial OSC, this is how you get it set up. And now it's ready to go.
Great, that was pretty easy.
So you can do, we've got the 4 rhythm channels across the top here. We've got the accent channel on this section here. This is controlled inverts, and then we have mutes. And then the logic section, which is here on the UI, and you can see that represented in this lower section of the grid down here, in this section here. So yeah, you've got full control of like the whole drum machine from this, right? You know, you can key in steps, you can mute and unmute patterns, you can invert stuff. There's a couple of button combinations in there as well. You can change pattern from here, or you can change the loop length of any of the loops, all from the Monome, right? So yeah, one of the kind of, it's like working with Strokes. This is an iPad app as well. Working with it on iPad, it's really nice, especially with using this like tapping in steps. And yeah, having the Monome grid just makes that a whole lot more fun.
Excellent. And what does, I can see the kind of sequencer part here. What does this lower section, can you just describe the lower section?
Yeah,
what that's
so
doing,
this
please?
is all the modulation in Strokes. I would describe it as being like, it's kind of deterministic rather than random, right? So you get a lot of these kind of modulation signals that are being sent out simultaneously. And I've got a Max to Live device which lets you map those to various parameters, right? So each one of these sequences can be assigned to any parameter in Live. And I say it's deterministic because each one of these sequencer lanes here is tied to a rhythm channel, right? So if I mute this kick drum track, this sequence is now going to be stuck on this step here until I unmute that track, right? Now, the modulation system isn't, it's quite flexible, right? So this might be stepping through on the kick drum rhythm, but it might be controlling the snare drum decay or the hi-hat reverb level. So you build these kind of relationships between different voices. So your kick drum is going to be influencing your hi-hat, which is going to be influencing your snare. And yeah, everything kind of crosses over nicely, you know?
Superb. And is this available now? And what sort of platforms is it on?
Yes,
How do people get hold of
Strokes
it?
is available as a VST3 as an audio unit, and as an AUV3 and a standalone application on iOS. It's also available on Mac and Windows, and potentially Linux soon if there's enough people out there.
Great.
Thinking about it, you know.
And how much is it if people want to
check it out?
And it's
£49 on desktop and £19.99 on iOS.
Great, thank you. And you also have Stacks available
yes,
as
so
well.
Stacks is running here on the iPad. So Stacks is a 4-track granular looper with a built-in sequencer and a built-in synth engine. So you can kind of break down the UI into the left and right section, right? So everything on the left is just a modulator for things on the right. So if I turn this up, we've got a little sequence played here. We've got this simple little acid line playing here. And I'm going to record that as a loop down here. And this loop start-stop is all synchronized, right? So we don't have to worry about dropping out of time. I say that as a drop out of time because this is set up in grain mode. Okay, we're back in time. So yeah, the idea with this is that once the loops are in, that's not the end of it. You know, these are loopers that give back more than you put in. So there's 3 different modes, right? We'll listen to real first. Now this set goes from sounding like normal to sounding like a completely knackered tape machine. We have a grain mode, and this is going to let you do like, you know, granular stuff. Oh, sorry, grain mode. Let me just turn the drums down. So we can go from this grain playback there's always a kind of position that you can set it back to, where it's just going to run like normal.
Great, and you have the ability to record multiple loops.
Yeah, exactly, right? So we just recorded that little acid line there. So let's take a listen to what the synth's doing. So this acid line's still going on the synth. I'm going to turn off all the steps beside these first two. And we can sequence chords on these ones, right? Record this as a loop.
And what kind of loop length have you got if people wanted to go crazy with recording loops?
Oh, good question. It's going to depend on your machine, I think. Probably 2 or 3 minutes. You can load your own samples in as well, you know.
Oh,
so yeah,
that's
this is probably a better loop to demo some of the granular stuff, right? So in grain mode. Now this is like, there's no alias, like anti-aliasing or like very limited interpolation here. This is meant to sound like an old Akai kind of. You know, it's meant to sound like time stretching. You know, this is not Ableton complex mode.
Yeah.
So that's grain mode. Slice is another kind of granular playback mode, but used for chopping beats. So your grain size in grain mode is always tied to the clock rate. And then yeah, real mode is the latest version, which has a lot of noisy parameters in. You can kind of make it sound like a knacker tape machine.
Superb. The two work very nicely together.
That's the whole thing. So now we've got strokes, dispatch, discontrol, and modulation for sends and returns and things like that, and filtering. Stacks is doing a chord line and a little acid bass line. And yeah, like this is, to be honest, yesterday was the first time that I plugged them all in and ran them all together. And it's like, there's a lot there. yeah.
Seems like a really fully featured piece of software you have here.
Yeah.
Is this available now, and where do people get it from?
Yeah, so Stacks is available for VST3 and as an audio unit. It's available on the App Store for $19.99, or it's available on my website, congburn.co.uk/stacks for $49.99. And that's a VST3 and audio unit, and Mac and Windows.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for showing us, John. Really appreciate it.
Thanks very much, man. Cheers.